In this video, I want to break down the issue that I'm seeing with virtual office addresses and why so many entrepreneurs are getting stuck, whether they're trying to open up their first business bank accounts or they're trying to get access to something as simple as a business credit card or a business line of credit. And a lot of this stems back to the type of virtual office address that they're selecting. Now, if you have no idea what a virtual office address is, this is essentially your ability to rent out the address of the physical location, so i.e., office building without paying the hefty price tag of a lease. The reason why this is going to be important is because, again, you don't have to attach yourself to a multi-thousand-dollar lease, or in some instances a couple $100, right? Especially if you're trying to be cost effective. This is one of the most cost effective ways of getting access to a physical location, which again isn't going to cost you that much. This is why, in theory, this option is so popular. But one thing that I'm seeing, especially after working with clients across different industries, is that not all virtual office addresses are created equal. And so the different type of addresses that I'm seeing across the board right now are PMBs, which are private mailboxes. This is tricky because these are formatted like this: PMB 123, or hashtag or pound sign 123. But the issue with that is that it's typically linked to a UPS store, a mailbox, or it's linked to some type of storage location. It's not an actual physical location that you would need to present to a bank, to a financial institution, or when you're setting up your business licenses, or if you're even thinking about getting government contracting. Now, banks are going to see this as a mail service, not as an actual office use location. This is why on a previous video that I've done on virtual office addresses, someone said, I've used a virtual office address, and I'm speaking like they were mad, right? That's just like how I interpret it based off of them using all caps. They said, I use a virtual office address and the bank still denied me for a business bank account. Somebody else said, I also use a virtual office address and I got denied for a business credit card. Everything in my business is on point. I have revenue, my personal credit, like I'm willing to PG, my personal credit's above a 750. What gives? Now, this right here is what, again, I'm noticing based off of how we're helping our clients reestablish their addresses to actually fit the model and fit the industry that they're working within. So to those subscribers and to those commenters' point of view, you are 100% right. Not all virtual office addresses are created equal, which is why I'm creating this video for us. So this is what I'm noticing that's working the best right now. The virtual office addresses that have suite numbers. So a format for that would be the following: suite 200. So 123 ABC Road, Suite 200, this is going to represent a real location, even if it's a shared type of workspace that we typically see either in your town or in your city, right? Those virtual shared locations, those virtual little cubicles that you have, you can still use that virtual office address as long as we attach ourselves to some type of suite. And like caveat, it actually has to look like a physical location. It can't look like one of these UPS or mailboxes. This is going to give lenders, and then I'm also going to include on here, if you're into contracting, so maybe some government contracting, the impression that you do have a virtual, or that you do have a legitimate business presence, not just an address that you're renting out. Now, second is, why do banks treat this differently? Irv, like, why is this even a thing? I'll give you a couple of reasons here. Number one is regulatory compliance. Banks and financial institutions, and I'm going to go ahead and bunch up credit unions in here as well. They have essentially a term that they use that's called know your customer. And this is going to help them with any type of anti-fraud laws and any type of businesses that were maybe created just to like wash out some money, or any businesses that were created as just a shell, but there's no real substance there. And so this does the second factor of how banks are treating these businesses that don't have these type of correct addresses in place, which is going to be risk perception. PMBs have been historically used for scams. And so this in the industry is known as a ghost business. And so you're essentially creating these fake shell companies. You're maybe doing a couple things through that business, and then there's no way for anyone to actually trace it back. And so have you guys ever seen like the news stories at 6 p.m.? Somebody's grandmother, they had a big old rig, and somebody's grandmother got hit with like a $50,000 scam. And then all of a sudden, when they went to go call the number, or when they went to quote unquote the office that was on the entity, It was a fake office. It was a fake location. That's what this aims to avoid, and that's why they've been cracking down on these type of virtual office addresses. And also, PMB on applications is going to be an instant red flag for underwriters. Lastly, credit worthiness and records is going to play a big part with why you want to pay attention to the type of virtual office address that you get. Reason for that is credit bureaus, both on the personal and on the business side, by the way. IRS and Secretary of State are going to tie your business identity to that location. The PMB looks like a low grade. And when I say low grade, I mean a low grade PO box. It's the lowest of the lows, which is why whenever I'm looking at a client's profile, one of the first things I look at is, okay, what's a fast lever that we can pull on, even if nothing else changes in the business? And one of the first places that I typically look at is going to be their virtual office address, especially if it's set up incorrectly. Remember, we want it to match some type of suite location where if we were to do a simple Google search, we'd be able to see, oh, this is an actual office location. You're seeing the trend here, right? So a real world example that I want to give you is if we're looking at at a PMB location, this is typically how it's going to read. So take a look at your LLC, if whether you set it up, and by the way, this works for corporations as well, whether you set it up or especially if you hired someone to set it up for you and you hired maybe a registered agent, just make sure that this bad boy right here doesn't read this way. Again, just trying to help you out, right? This is more so what I'm seeing, again, working right now in real time. But again, the caveat is this last piece right here: office building and shared virtual location. Because I also have people that go on the opposite side of the spectrum, and they'll say, oh, I got myself a suite number. And then we'll look at it. It's okay, cool. Let's just Google it. And we Google it, and it doesn't look like a real building. And it looks like a haunted house. And it looks like the last time that that facility was in use was in like 1920. And so you still want to offset it by, hey, I got myself a virtual office address, but I could physically drive into this location and work out of it if I wanted to. That's like taking it to the next point, because I'm sure I'm going to get somebody in this video. They're going to say, well, I have a virtual office address and it says it's a suite number, but I still got denied. What gives? Remember, this is just one metric that I'm giving you based off of all the data that we have. I'm just trying to make it easy for you so that if you do have a PMB, you're able to make that switch quick. Banks know the difference. This is also a comment that I got, and I agree with this person. Banks know the difference, and their systems will automatically flag the PMB. I think it was on a short. Somebody said, "Oh, I've seen banks and they're smarter than just attaching a virtual office address." Yes, because a lot of the virtual office addresses that people get are cheap, and they don't actually do the job of what the virtual office address is supposed to do, which is to create validity around the business. Fourth and final thing, which is practical guidance, and I also want to label this as best next steps for you. So you want to use the virtual office address with a real physical location plus a suite number. So that's like the caveat there that I want to give you. Update this everywhere. I have a rule internally for our clients when we're auditing, we're looking at their businesses. By the way, if you need help with any of this, feel free to book a call with our team down below. It is pinned as the first comment. But one of the things that we do is we have something called the 5 deep rule. And so I like to update it on the business credit reports. I like to update it on the IRS statements. I like to update their address with any financial institutions, whether on the credit side, so whether they already have an account with a financial institution or if they're planning on opening that account. I also like to update it with the Secretary of State, obviously, right? And then I also like to update it if they have any contracts with vendors or any type of contracts with, again, if they're doing any type of government contracting or any type of work that they've already done. The reason why this piece is going to be super important and why we call it the 5 deep rule is because we're hitting essentially every pillar. We're hitting the financial institutions, we're hitting the contracts that we have, we're hitting the state level, we're hitting the local level, and we're hitting the government level. Look, one wrong address can mean the difference between you not just getting approved for business capital, because this will be a byproduct of that, but also how a potential partner or how a potential customer or even how a potential contract that's on the line views your business. By the way, I made a full video breaking down virtual office addresses and additional information on what to look for. You can find that video right here.